2017 Oscar-nominated motion pictures Hidden Figures follows the untold true story of a team of female African-American mathematicians that paved the way for the first American astronaut to successfully orbit the Earth in 1962.
That's John Glenn.
What do you guys do for NASA?
Calculate your launch and landing site.
Unfortunately, these women went virtually unknown and unseen for the critical role they played in NASA during the early years of the US space program. Now, 60 years later, the number of women and girls in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics remains deeply underrepresented, despite being half of the world's population. According to a recent report from UNESCO, less than 30% of researchers employed in research and development worldwide are women. Studies also have found that women in STEM fields are published less, paid less for their research, and do not progress in their careers as much as their male counterparts. In sub-Saharan Africa, women still are hidden figures. Women are comparatively lagging behind the US, China, and Europe. According to the World Bank, if this doesn't change soon, women are likely to remain in jobs that may be replaced by technology, lower paying or less economically impactful positions in a world that's increasingly technology driven. We will discuss these issues and more on this week's edition of Our Voices. Hello, I am Semenyi Shekoye and this is Our Voices. Many of you see me each week presenting the Women to Watch segment. On today's program, I'm going to introduce you to several inspiring women on the African continent and then in the diaspora who are highlighting STEM. They will share the ups and downs of their fascinating careers, the challenges they face in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and maths, as they promote STEM education to other African women and girls. We begin with Senegalese scientist Ndeye Mati Ndeye, who is the winner of the L'Oréal UNESCO for Women in Science Prize. Ndeye's research focuses on energy storage and aims to facilitate its access to rural areas. Alison Likengo Fernandez and Bashir Yaz Bodian has this story.
At Cheikh Anta Diop University in Dakar in the Physics Department laboratory, Ndeye Mati Ndeye is working on a project that could revolutionize access to energy in rural areas. Using organic materials such as peanut shells, hibiscus or bamboo, the postdoctoral fellow is developing batteries.
Usually for this type of application, people only use chemicals. What is new is the use of 100% biomass. Another thing is that we use what people usually throw in the street.
It's clean and cheap energy that's intended to reduce the use of fossil fuels. The project was initiated by Professor Bala Diop Ngom in 2014 when Ndeye was one of his students. She devoted her master's and her thesis to the subject.
She's the right hand of this project. She's the one who is really there, active. She's a trustworthy person. She is a reactive person. Science has no time. It's all about reaction. So it's important to have these kinds of people around you.
The 38-year-old Ndeye is now a teacher and a researcher, and this year she has split her time between Dakar and Philadelphia in the United States, where she obtained a scholarship. She hopes to become a model for her students in order to trigger their interest.
In Senegal, women scientists, the percentage is low. It is important for us to carry this work to motivate other young women to join us, to work together. We are going to change Senegal, Africa, and why not the world?
And her fight seems to bear fruit, especially in this laboratory which accommodates a majority of women a rarity on the continent.
It's very rare to see a married woman who continues to do research in this area. There aren't so many of them. They are very rare, found especially here in Africa, because here we consider that the place of women is behind the stove. This motivates us. She's an example to all of us here.
Displaying her generosity, Ndeye has decided to devote her endowment to the purchase of equipment for her laboratory. For Alison Lekogo Fernandez in Dakar, I'm Esther Githu-Ewart.
Now to the amazing life-changing story of Mariam Jam. She was trafficked from Senegal to France at the age of 13 to work as a prostitute. Later, she lived in a refugee center before making her way to Britain, where she became interested in computer programming. She became a success and is making it her mission to teach 1 million women and girls, including refugees, how to program by 2030. Ruud Elmendrop reports from Kakuma refugee camp in Kenya.
Senegalese technologist Mariam Jam is giving deprived communities a chance to dream big.
So I wanted to just recap what we've learned.
Jam's I Am the Code movement aims to teach 1 million women and girls, including refugees, how to program computers by 2030. The World Economic Forum's Young Global Leaders program brought her to Kenya's Kakuma refugee camp to teach and inspire others to overcome hardship, as she did.
And at 13 years old, I was taken away from my country, Senegal, to France. So I really suffered as a young girl growing up in a street of France as a young prostitute. And at the age of 16, I was picked up by the French police under the tube station and sent to a refuge center where I grew up. And then I ended up in the UK when I was 18.
In Britain, Jam taught herself computer programming at the library, driven by a love for math and science. And now she wants to help girl refugees, as she once was.
So I really understand what the refugee girls are going through, dreaming, not having enough, suffering from loss and pain and difficulties. I understand where they're coming from. And that's why always people ask me, where this passion coming from? It's coming from there because I understand them. I've been there as a child like them.
Kakuma is in northwest Kenya and has over 180,000 refugees, mostly those who fled war and poverty in South Sudan. I Am the Code is African-led and challenges girls to look to the future in countries where women have only a fraction of technology jobs.
I Am the Code will really help me because it will equip me with skills that will help me to compete with other communities and other counties because it will give me skills in technology. So that is really very helpful.
There is still a long way to go to reach Jam's goal, to teach 1 million women and girls computer programming. But since 2011, I Am the Code has trained thousands of women and girls. And that's something to celebrate, especially in a refugee camp. Ruud Elmendorp for VOA News, Kakuma, Kenya.
The technology sector provides many jobs for today's innovators. But one scientist and teacher in Cameroon says there is no reason why women should not be part of that technological growth. She's making it her goal to prepare more young girls to enter the workforce. Arash Arabsadi reports.
The kids controlling these robots are studying to become the innovators of the future. At a time when 95% of the kids around the world who do not attend school are girls, these young women hope to change that.
Other people inspired me with their stories, with what they did, and I want to empower myself as well, and also I aspire to inspire other girls to take part in such activities.
Here at the Next Gen Center in Cameroon, about 20 young students are learning how to write code and build robots, skills that may help them fill the jobs of tomorrow while addressing gender inequality and the lack of opportunities for women today.
If there's any young girl that has exceptional ability and is extraordinary, it's all about helping them get to where they want to go to. Actually, it starts with them. It's a dream. So nurturing someone's dream and then taking the person to the height of their ability.
The most recent data from the United Nations shows that women and girls account for 60% of Cameroon's illiterate population. By focusing on girls, NextGen is hoping to move more women away from poverty.
We do not want to find situations where people are not achieving their potential because they did not have the opportunity. So we are leveling the ground.
Which paves the way for NextGen students like Lynn, who wants to someday build a robot that can translate conversations between doctors and patients who live in remote areas.
If they can speak in their own language and the robot translates it to the doctor, which will be able to interpret what they're suffering from and find a cure for them.
NextGen's founder has initiated a similar program to train 800 students. That's a big win for everyone, not just young women. The latest UN research shows that if all girls in the world received a secondary education, child deaths would be cut in half, saving 3 million lives across the globe. Arash Erbasadi, VOA News.
It's time for a break. When we return, we'll meet a woman who found herself questioning the ethics behind the artificial intelligence research for marginalized communities of color. We'll be right back.
On VOA Our Voices, women are using their voices to empower,
to nurture,
to educate,
to stand up in any language.
Amajgriyachu,
Dimsachan,
Marioyamu,
Mazwi Edu.
Our Voices.
Welcome back. You are watching Our Voices. Silicon Valley is the top destination for many women seeking a career in STEM. Their dream is to work for powerhouse companies like Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, and Google. Ethiopian-born Timnit Gabru, a former artificial intelligence researcher at Google, gained prominence for exposing bias in facial analysis systems, and her work ultimately got her fired. Timnit was pushed out of Google after the tech giant asked her to retract the research paper she co-authored criticizing the language recognition technology. In a response letter, Google's chief of artificial intelligence said Timnit's research did not meet the bar for publication. I spoke to her about her controversial research as one of the few Black women in the field of artificial intelligence. Do you think you were especially targeted, or was it especially challenging because you are a woman and also a Black woman?
Yes, definitely, because I also spoke up. I wasn't just someone who didn't speak up. So there was constant, the final thing with me being fired was not out of the blue. There was like a number of things that were happening throughout my time at Google. So, if I were from a different group, I wouldn't have spoken up. But then I also saw people from other groups, like my manager, who started speaking up, and then they also started retaliating against him. So even our supporters and allies would get retaliated against. For every visible person whose story is out in the public limelight like mine, there are many others who've gone through very similar and even way worse experiences, which we can't, bring to the limelight because it's difficult to come out about a corporation publicly because your life can be ruined even more. So I think what people should take away from my story is that first thing you want to do is you want the facts to come to light, and the facts can't come to light if there's such an imbalance of power. People are going to be retaliated against for doing that.
And this discouraged them from joining tech companies.
It's not even being discouraged from joining tech companies. When they want to join, they have to jump through many hoops. So another recruiter who was fired before me, her name is April Curley. She's another Black woman. She was a recruiter that was trying to get people from HBCU, historically Black universities, hired at Google. And she talks about how, for instance, people admitted to giving more difficult interview questions for the people they saw. These are like people who have awards that nobody gets during their, graduate school studies. People who have best paper awards. People who have all the most amazing credentials you can imagine. and they would find a way to say, oh, this person probably should not be hired, or this person should go through an extra hoop. Then once you're hired, then there's also all of this hostility that people face. So it's not about, someone being discouraged from joining or not. It's about an active kind of barrier from barrier that is actively placed to prevent people from not just joining, but having a healthy kind of life and work.
And now you have your own institution called Distribute Artificial Intelligence Research Institute, and you are trying to increase the presence of Black individuals in the technology. How especially are you encouraging women to come to the field, both in the diaspora or in the African continent?
Diversity and things like that are not just about bringing in certain kinds of people in a specific structure. It's very important to have an interdisciplinary team of researchers, not just computer science, not just AI or whatever, but sociologists who study social structures and their importance, people who study tech history, and people who do critical analysis of these systems. So when you see the process, just like the structure that we're in, the leadership, the way, the things we value, a lot of women want to join. The expertise that we value, right, and the gatekeeping that we don't have, a lot of women want to join. So the makeup of our institute is already, we're still building it up, is already more than 50% women. So
you create the opportunity for women
4 to 6, so more than actually 70%, maybe 60-70% women. So it's not like reserved for women, but it's more than that. It's not a hostile environment. It's very simple. It's really not rocket science.
So when the environment is easy, women would come.
It's just not a hostile environment. It's a regular environment where women can live without being sexually harassed, without, being interrupted all the time, without, for each work that they do, the man next to them gets recognition, but they don't. That's the issue. The issue is not that women are not interested in technology. Women are plenty interested in technology. It's just that they can't survive so they have to decide, do I do this to myself? Do I live like this, or do I leave? And many women leave or don't join.
It's time for another break. But first, do you think gender equality and inclusion is important in STEM research? Please share your thoughts on our social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and our handle is @VOA Our Voices. We are also on WhatsApp, and our number is on your screen. When we come back, we will share an inspiring story of how a near-death experience as a teen, due to the lack of power in the Democratic Republic of Congo, fueled a dream in the heart of a young woman to become an electrical engineer. Stay with us.
Empowerment and humanity towards a better world.
Economic and social progress of every society.
Facts and information from key players rather than spectators in politics, business, science and technology.
City, rural, educated, or underprivileged. We care and we listen to what matters to you.
Your voices are our voices.
Welcome back. You are watching Our Voices. Meet Dr. Sandrine Mubenga, who at 17 years of old almost died in her native Democratic Republic of Congo due to lack of power. The incident led her to a career in electrical engineering. Now an accomplished professor at the University of Toledo, she's more committed than ever to inspire girls to pursue science.
I was born in Kinshasa, the capital city of the Congo, and I grew up in Kikwit, which is a small town. So it has brick houses, roads and everything, except that there was no running water nor electricity.
FS275, 75 watt each.
When I was 17, I got really sick, and when we called the doctor, she told me, you have appendicitis, you need to go under surgery right away. Unfortunately, there was no electricity in the general hospital. So for 3 days, I was between life and death.
Check this and make sure everything. This one is a little bit.
After those 3 days where I was really in pain and I was scared, I find my motivation to become an electrical engineer.
This is good. If they break, the whole line is broken. There's this connection here.
I just realized that in the 21st century, it is unacceptable that people die because of the lack of electricity. I came to the United States to study electrical engineering at the University of Toledo. I was very interested in renewable energy, so when I was doing my undergrad, I learned to design and install solar systems and completed my bachelor, my master's, and my PhD here.
So this week we are going to continue with Introduction to C.
I could see that it was very important not only to find solutions to problems, but to teach others how to find solutions and how to implement those solutions. So that's why I became a professor, to pass on the knowledge I've learned.
This is a way to get the answer.
Typically, I have 0 women. We are lucky to have 3 women in class. You got it? Okay, good. Why do we have few women in the STEM field? Science, technology, engineering, and math.
Oh, Connor. Jennifer.
It's very easy to see when you go in a store, you see all the toys for women and girls are dolls and things like that, and for the boys you would have tools. So unfortunately, society is pretty much sending a message that science, technology, engineering, and math is for men.
And then you have the LED here.
Right now, there's a lot of work that's being done to say, no, you are a woman, you can do STEM. That message needs to be sent early. After I got my professional engineer license, I started SMIN Power Group because that was my dream. In 2013, then we opened the office in Kinshasa. We installed solar system and designed solar system for communities in the Congo. I always wanted to lead a company that would provide energy solutions in places like Kikwit. It's not as much the money, but it's the social impact coming from my experience, almost dying because of the lack of electricity. It was a huge effort to educate the customer. And we were pleased to see that after this effort that more people are interested in solar in the Congo. So it's been a positive experience.